everybody. Welcome to our next webinar here at WebDevStudios. Super excited for today, as I always am, but we have an awesome guest on the show, a person that maybe a few of you might have heard of. I don't know where he ranks on the order of Matt's and importance in WordPress these days, but I know he's my friend. So Matt Medeiros, welcome to the WebDevStudios webinar. How you doing?
Brad, it's always great to be here. It's always great to be here in a more professional and adult-oriented context.
We are nothing if not professionals, Matt. And I think anyone that's followed our journeys online, our podcast, various ones we've done together, separate, we like doing this thing, right? We like having fun, geeking out, talking about new technology, talking about WordPress and business. And today, we got a special show because it aligns really well with what I do, which is, how to plan and budget your next WordPress project, right? That's a big question, right? Someone says, hey, I know I want to use WordPress. I have this project. Maybe it's for a business. Maybe it's a new idea they had, but where do you start? Like, what can you do to help not only yourself and your project and your business, but also help the agencies, the freelancers, the people you're talking to find the right fit to help you with your WordPress project. So obviously, I have a lot of experience with this. I'm Brad Williams, co-founder and managing partner of WebDevStudios. We're in our 18th year of as being a WordPress-focused design and development agency. So if you can believe it, we've been working with WordPress professionally for 18 years now, which is still seems wild when I hear it come out of my mouth. But we've been doing this a long time, so I'm excited to dig in with Matt, share some of our experiences, and but also hear from Matt's perspective. So Matt, welcome to the show. Why don't you give everyone a 50,000 foot view of you. I know you do a lot, and then we'll kind of dig in.
Yeah, so as Brad mentioned, we're going to talk about scoping and pricing projects for WordPress. Very important these days, I think, especially through the lens of what's happening with AI, the industry, so much competition in WordPress. My day job is at Gravity Forms, where I help sort of advocate for the product and talk to the WordPress community. Or bring those ideas and those concepts and those requests back to the team. Been at Gravity Forms now just over 3 years, which is pretty amazing. That's already been that long.
Love Gravity Forms.
We all love Gravity Forms. I love Gravity Forms.
I mean, that's what we use. So
I was a customer before I was an employee, and I still pay for my license because Carl won't give it to me for free. And on the side, I moonlight as a publisher and podcaster. An educator at thewpminute.com with my great team, Eric Karkovac, Raquel, and Jacqueline, who has joined the team recently. And we do some amazing things like talk about WordPress. We do courses. We do newsletters, podcasts, YouTube videos, etc. We have a wonderful community. And today I'm happy to announce on your show or in your webinar that we've released a new course. It's called Hire Smart and Scope Right. It's how to plan your next website project using WordPress. And it's great for folks, like you said, on how to figure out what that budget is, what goes into a WordPress project, how do I find an agency to do this stuff, how do you pick and evaluate an agency. And we're really excited to launch this alongside of our other course, which is about hosting. We can talk about how this all comes together in a little bit, but that's the 50,000 foot view.
Man, this is like the best time to have a webinar to talk about how to hire, how to plan for your project when you just released a course around it. It's kind of like we planned this, Matt.
But yeah, it was planned.
It was planned. So congrats on the launch. I definitely enjoyed the first course, and I definitely liked the progression, right? So the first one's around, hiring smart, scoping, planning, around hosting, right? You have a website, WordPress, hosting, right? A lot of big questions there. Where do I host? What questions should I ask? And this is kind of the next logical. Okay, now we've got the hosting established or figured out, or at least rough ideas. Now, how do I hire someone to help me build my project, right? So, and some big questions like you mentioned. So let's kind of dig right in because a lot to cover today, and we're going to share a lot of advice and thoughts. I've been doing this for a long time. Of course, my voice is primarily going to be on the agency side, but as with everything, not every answer that's going to come out of my mouth is going to be hire an agency, right? Just like WordPress is a great platform, but it's not the platform for everybody, and that's okay, right? Just like an agency maybe isn't the best position for you to work, the best company to work with for your project, or maybe it is, right? So that's what we're going to dig into today. And, with that course, certainly you can go to and check it out on thewpminute.com. Go over there. I see it. It's live. Go get a copy of it. We're going to talk through some of the things in the course, but also just advice. And it's free. Everyone's favorite. Free as in beer? No. Free as in freedom?
Free as in free. Free as in
free as in doesn't cost any money. So not to confuse the point. But so let's start with really where it all begins, right? Which is the project, and really understanding what your project is and really kind of defining that. Can you speak a little bit about how you cover that within the course? And then we'll kind of dig in from there, but really like setting the stage for what is it you're doing? What is the project, that you need to get completed?
Yeah. So the course isn't going to teach you like which plugins to pick. It's not going to say like Gravity Forms is the best form plugin and this is what you should use, or WooCommerce is the leading e-commerce plugin. Though we do mention it. We're not evaluating plugins or themes or even like ways to develop the WordPress website. It's more about that critical thinking to what is going to make a successful project, whatever success means, for you. We cover the various, what I'll call categories of that critical thinking. Like, hey, I just need a small business website. I'm a plumber, accountant, a florist, and I just need a website, a healthy website to showcase my stuff. How should I think about that? What goes into that? And then how do I find somebody to help me do that? And then we bring that all the way up to, well, if you're looking for some kind of enterprise or bespoke application with WordPress, same thing. How do I think about that? How do I gather up the requirements? And then how do I shop that to an agency or potential freelancer to cover something like that? And we always start with, that end goal in mind is what's going to make a successful project, because 9 times out of 10 your agency or freelancer is going to ask you that. It's making sure you're thinking of the end goal. Yeah, we all know you want a website. We all know you might not even be sold on WordPress yet, but we know that you want a website. But what does that mean to you? Is it just having it up there? Is it because you're going to get leads? Is it because it's going to work for you in some way and free up your time? Like, what is that core value that it's bringing to you? And we're trying to get folks in the mindset of thinking of that end goal, and that way when they get to an agency or freelancer, we've solved that for them, hopefully, at least by the first part of the course.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love that advice, because I feel like, to your point, many people start with, well, what's step 1 of my project, right? Versus the end, which it might be weird to say, but like, it's a great question that we love to ask, our clients, but also leads walking in the door. Like, once this new website launches, a year after, what does success look like? A year after the launch, 6 months after launch, a week after launch, what is success? Because, it's good if you can define that and share that information with whoever you want to work with. That puts a clear goal, in the initial conversation of this is what success looks like. To your point, is it getting more leads? Success for us at WebDev is more people clicking contact us and saying, hey, we want to talk about a WordPress project. That's converting. That's success for us on our website, right? But you might be selling a product. You might be selling a service. It might just be, I just need information so I don't have to keep telling people what my hours are for my business, right? Hey, if that's success for you, great. But defining that and then sharing that with the agencies or freelancers you're talking to gives them a very specific goal that they need to work towards too, right? And hopefully all the conversation and plans that are presented after that are all towards supporting, working towards that goal.
Yeah. And I should have prefaced this if I was a better presenter, that I ran an agency for a decade. You and I worked it's how you and I met. And we worked hand in hand on some projects. I ran an agency for a decade. Eric Karkovac, who is the course instructor for this course, he put 95% of this course together. He has 30 years in the business as a freelancer, and he taking his knowledge of like the freelancer side and me coming in from the agency side to help like sort of build this course curriculum. That's where like a lot of this experience comes from, and of course my livelihood has been in WordPress for 18 years. So I, see and talk to a lot of agency owners. And, we're trying to put all the stuff that we went through selling projects and talking to customers to make sure we would have loved to have this as agency owners and freelancers so that folks were primed to do this. And I'm sure we'll talk about it, but even more so in the age of AI, when everyone thinks that they can just build something super fast. It's great we can build something super fast, but is it solving? Is it scalable? Is it maintainable? Et cetera, et cetera.
You know what that reminds me of is do you do much text or voice to text with AI? Do you communicate with AI using voice?
Yeah,
I've started to do that more, and the one thing I'm realizing is it's harder because I don't have all my thoughts formed that fast, right? Versus typing. And I feel like there's a relation to this too of kind of going in and trying to speak to AI about what you want, but not even fully having the thoughts formed of what you want to tell AI or other just, tool to where you're not, it's kind of like taking that step back so you can answer those questions, so you can have that deeper understanding before, because again, I've tried them. I'm like, my brain can't move fast enough to because I'm so used to typing while I'm thinking. So it is absolutely, but anyways, a little bit of a side there, but another point I want to make around understanding your project too is you don't need all the answers. In fact, nobody should expect that you have all the answers. Most likely you're not an expert at WordPress or building websites or even potentially online, right? You're an expert in your business, right? Or you're an expert at whatever it is that you do. So again, don't think you need to come to the table when you're talking to a freelancer agency and have every single answer. Here's the plugins I want. Here's how we're going to do it. Because honestly, you might be backing yourself into a corner and not even realizing it. You could be making really big decisions that the person you're talking with disagrees with, right? Or for whatever reason, right? But I like to again say, you need to have the right questions, but not necessarily answers. The right questions are things like, how would you integrate a contact form? What does that look like? Because we need people to be able to reach out to us. We have different departments. Emails need to go to different places, right? How would you potentially accomplish that? Oh, well, there's a lot of ways we could do that. There's some awesome plugins like Gravity Forms and others we could look at. There's other things, but let's dig into that a little bit so we understand what success looks like, what your goal is for that. And then you start to dig in and realize, oh, it's not just a contact form. It needs to go to HubSpot. Okay. Yeah. So let's make sure we get the right tool to send it to HubSpot, right?
Yeah. We're going to talk about red flags later on in our discussion, but I do want to just bring this up now is you don't have to have all the answers. And as the professional, as the agency or freelancer, you should expect your customer doesn't have all of those questions answered. They're not prepared. I can tell you, my God, and I know you've gone through this too, dealing with contractors, contractors that will come to your house to build things or fix things or renovate a bathroom. I was talking to one the other day, and he's asking me about something, and he's just like, so do you want the tile here? How far do you want up and down? You want to go, all this other stuff? And I'm like, guy, I don't know. That's why I'm talking to you. I want you to tell me, with my budget, what the best solution is. Here's my budget. And obviously, I know as a business owner, you're probably like, okay, how do I maximize this? But don't forget, you can't just maximize it on this one section. It can't just be design the homepage, do all this stuff, and then there's no more budget left for the rest of the site.
Right.
You need to be able to temper my expectations as the consultant in this case, and tell me, okay, look, if you do this tile across this, we're really going to go, way out of budget, and you should really do it this way so that we can spend in other areas. And as a customer and a client, nothing drives me more is when they're just they're not asking me the questions, and they're just expecting me to have the answers. So we're hoping that a course like this, when you're looking for red flags and evaluating agencies, if your agency or freelancer is not asking you the questions, or you ever feel like they're making you feel like, oh, don't you have the answer to this? Red flag.
Yeah, red flag for sure.
And if you're an agency freelancer, you take the course and you go, oh, these are the things I should be asking my customer, because it's going to make the relationship so much better.
I love the contractor analogy. I use it a lot. I use it with clients, new leads. I use it internally with my team because it aligns with what we do as building websites so much, right? So a good example I always say is, you're walking out the door, coming to WebDevStudios, and you want us to build you a house, right? And you're saying, I want a house that looks awesome. How much is it? I have a couple questions, right? That's how I break it down when someone says, I want a website that looks awesome for my business. What does it cost? couple questions to follow up with that, right? But that's how I relate it. I'm like, so you're asking us to build a house, but you're not giving us the information of what type of house you want. I don't need to know every minute decision around how you're going to build that house, right? But I do need to know some big things. How many bedrooms are we talking about? How many bathrooms, right? Is there a garage? Like there's some baseline things I need to start putting some ideas of pricing and timeline around building this house for you, right? So I like to use that analogy too when I'm talking with new leads. If they come in the door and don't have a lot of that information, which is fine, they're not always going to have the answers that you want, which we just mentioned. They don't need all the answers, but it's a good way to get them to start thinking about this and understanding what we're trying to get out of them so that we can give them the best possible plan and proposal that we can possibly provide by understanding what exactly type of house they want to build. It's also a great analogy when you go to revamp your bathroom and you tear down a wall and there's asbestos. Change order, right? That's my favorite one. Like
Yeah.
You always watch those shows. Oh, there's asbestos. We got to bring in a specialist, right? Well, it's the same thing. You tear down a wall in a project, an existing project, right? You find something. Well, hey, there's a process for that. So anyways, it's about getting the detail as much as you can and not up. Look, you shouldn't have to have all the answers, but again, think about the questions that you want to ask. How are they going to accomplish something? How do they think about something? Because if they're just spewing back, yeah, we'll use a plugin. Yeah, we'll do, are they really breaking it down how they're thinking about it? Because part of it is too just the mindset of how they, a freelancer or even an agency or whoever you're talking to breaks down what you're telling them and starts to dissect it and make sure they have what they need to give you the best possible answer. And usually that is follow-up questions, right?
Yeah.
If you're getting woodworm answers on these big questions, red flag.
Yeah, and one of the best kind of exchange from a client agency relationship is, when you first outreach to an agency, and obviously we talk about this in the course, but some agencies have specialties, right? And there are, I don't know, like WooCommerce specialty. There are agencies that don't touch WooCommerce at all. And the best kind of exchange is when a customer comes to that person, they go, I'm going to add a WooCommerce site. And then the agency at that point, this is when you're in the right place, is when they say, sorry, we don't do that. I can recommend you somebody else. Because it's whenever they ever go out into their, above their head in depths that they're, not accustomed to, that's when you're going to probably in for, a rough road. And, customers, I remember really disliking that question when customers ask me, like, well, what do you specialize in? Can you even do this project? Either the competitive part of you or like, no, like we work really hard to do that. It's sort of like you feel that and you're just like, well, of course we can do it. But then like the business owner, as I got a little bit more mature in the agency space, is like, no, it's better if I can find a lane and really provide value for this customer as best as possible and not take on projects that I'm not comfortable with or are below or like too far below my budget. And more importantly, way above my budget, because if I remember taking on the way above my budgets and just inundated by like how much you have to manage a project like that and their expectations, and like just feeling totally uncomfortable in those situations. So you can really follow your gut, I guess, as we could say, when you start talking to agencies and freelancers.
Yeah, I mean, all really, really good points. So kind of going along that trend, we talk freelancers, agencies. Let's dig into that a little bit, right? Because that's a big one I get a lot is this a project for an agency? Is this a project for a freelancer? And it's a pretty big question. It's a pretty loaded question, honestly, because, we're building a house. What kind of house do you want, So let's dig into like how, people, companies can think about the differences between the two, pros and cons, and maybe how they want to decide what makes sense based on the type of project and support and things they would expect at that level. So, thoughts?
Yeah. So I think if you're the client and you're in between like a, let's say a $5,000 bid from a freelancer, but your agency bid is like $50,000 and you're trying to figure out like, well, who do I go with? I think it's going to come down to, your business and your responsibilities as the stakeholder in that business. And of course, it's the person might be able to build it, but will they be able to support it? And how critical is this to your business, where if that freelancer is no longer here, are you going to be left holding this technical debt or this functionality that only that person knows? And, you have to weigh all of that business continuity, first and foremost. Maybe sometimes it's I don't know, some landing pages. You need a freelancer to design some landing pages. Maybe it's like ACF and custom post types and all this other stuff. And yeah, it's semi-technical, but it's not business critical. Whereas if you had them build this custom plugin or this custom integration to WooCommerce, like you definitely don't want to go to your boss and say, "Oh, by the way, this is broken." And that person I hired he went to college. He's not picking up the phone anymore. And you're like, oh shit, what do I do now? So you're really looking for that, and then of course you're looking for, and this is a twofold thing, which I think a lot of people, especially WordPress freelancers and agencies, totally forget, is turnover in a business and in an organization, and it counts. It goes both ways. So if this is a mission-critical thing for your business and you're the client, you want to make sure that you're hiring an agency because hopefully they'll be in business. And on the flip side, as the agency and freelancer owner, if you're selling a project, it's also important to understand when you're selling into a business that has a team of people that might be touching this, you need to account for turnover, because my God, how many times I've been in a position where I sold something to somebody and then I get an email the next week and they go, "Hey, so I'm leaving the business. This is Stephanie from the new department." I'm like, wait a minute. Like, what happened? We just had like this 3 months, pre-sales, and now you're leaving. So continuity, turnover in these businesses, very important to account for that in these projects, which then turns into like support and education, like shipping the project. Sure, you can build the project, but when you want to ship the project and go live and train the staff that might be using this feature, like can a freelancer do that for your company? Like, do you want them coming in to do that? Or does an agency have like a specialist who is like, "Hey, I'm your QA person, I'm your project manager, let's walk through this new feature," right? So there's some comforts and some luxuries there. I mean, obviously you're going to pay for it, but that's the point, is you're going to get that extra level of support and hands-on.
Yeah, I mean, all really great points. It's almost like hosting. I always like to relate things because sometimes it's a little more, relatable, I guess, which is why I relate them. But like a managed host versus, an unmanaged, maybe at AWS or something, right? Or a managed host, yeah, there's more of a cost, right? But they're also doing a lot more for you. So I think your point around like critical components and things too is really valid, right? So if you're hiring someone to come in and build some, payment processing connector for some very custom system that you have, you need to bring in heavy hitters that know what they're doing, right? And can do something very unique to you or very custom, and build something in a way that is so critical to your business. If it were to fail, it would be a massive problem immediately, right? So those are kind of obvious contenders for finding an agency, right? I think the redundancy factor is also a huge point, like you said, right? When someone comes to web dev, they're hiring a team, right? There's sick time, there's PTO, you're hiring a team, and we have redundancy built in. So we don't stop working because someone's out on PTO or someone's sick. You have a team of engineers, a project manager and a lead that are really driving and guiding that ship. So yes, it is a higher cost, but you're paying for that, right? You're paying for that expertise of front end, back engineers, back end engineers, people that specialize in data, UI, UX. To your point, you're working with specialists throughout your website and your application. So now it's not to say there's amazing freelancers out there. There are, but I think it's just a matter of what does a single point of failure mean to your project, and I think that's how you had to look at it, because it is a risk. There is more of a risk putting your project on a single person than there is putting your project with an agency. But maybe the cost of your project justifies that risk. Hey, we're saving, like you said, we're doing $5,000 versus 50. But again, how important is that project to you and your business and your overall success? There's many projects that are, freelancers are awesome at, right? Get the website out, just keep it updated. It's not doing anything crazy. There's really advanced stuff that freelancers are awesome at too. So I definitely don't want to discourage that, but I think there needs to understand, to your point, we've had so many people over the years walk in the door where their freelancer got sick, right? Or there was a family emergency. You kind of get these common excuses, right? For whatever reason, and then they're just gone overnight. And now they're coming to us. We start to dig in and realize, oh, you had one person building this application. Nobody was verifying what they were doing. Nobody was confirming it's done the right way, the WordPress way, following standards. And we walk into this spaghetti mess of code that we can't even work with. And we're like, our only thing we can do now is rebuild it, which of course they never want to hear that, right? But that's the position they kind of put themselves in. So again, how important is this project to you, your business, the overall success of whatever it is you're looking to do? And again, it doesn't mean freelancers can't help, but is inherent more risky if you have one person on point and that's it. So,
and I've seen this cut both ways too. It was hard for us. Like when we were making this course, I wanted it to be for people that are looking to also, hire agency freelancers, but also if you're a freelancer agency and you're like, yeah, I need a refresher or just like some fundamentals, this is why the course might be good. But what happens, I've seen, and I know you've seen this, and anyone who's been in the space has seen it. I mean, you and I are not the rocket scientists that are figuring this stuff out. But what I've seen is, oh my God, there's a new page builder out. Let's go jump to this page builder. And, now I'm going to, oh, wait, now there's this other page builder over here has all of these features. So let's go to this page builder. And it's like the inverse, where now you're chasing, as the agency owner, like you're chasing shiny objects and you're chasing these things, and you forget, okay, if I got people who have been working for me and they only know this one page builder and they go and get another job, right? Now I'm stuck with this page builder, like a set of clients that are running on this page builder. I don't really support this. We got, 12 other sites over here on this other page builder. Now this guy's gone. What do I do? So it's very hard, it's very important to, stay with some standards in your business. I mean, these are things that I think people eventually learn once they hit those roadblocks, but you're just going to avoid them as best as possible.
What do you have a little bit in your course around local versus remote, which I think is kind of fascinating. And obviously remote work is, ever since 2020 is much more common across the board. We've been a remote company really since like 2010 and kind of forced into that because we were at the Jersey Shore, not a lot of developers around. So we had to start hiring in different places. Do you think that is a big factor in today's day and age, freelancer, agency, or otherwise, about being a local business, working with a local business versus just like WebDevStudios, we work with people all over the place, being remote?
Yeah, I mean, when I started our agency, it largely started because it was a local business, and my father still runs the agency today, and he's primarily doing local, if not like semi-regional-ish clients. I think if you're the agency owner, you're thinking to yourself, like, do I want to cultivate a team locally? Do I want to, hire people locally, et cetera? Is the talent there? Can I afford the talent wherever I'm at? Do I have a place where people can like work together? There's definitely some value there. I do kind of miss that environment when I ran the agency. I mean, the two guys that work for me now work at Automatic, and the other one works at Bluehost. So like it's kind of funny how like they've graduated, but I kind of do miss like that working environment.
Yeah.
But also for some, again, I just spoke to a friend of mine. She is the head of a fairly large nonprofit locally. She has some she needs somebody to like come in and work with her with WordPress and her team. They don't have a ton of money, so they're not just going to somebody's going to sign like a multi-$1,000 a month support contract for them, and they need local. And now that is the challenge of, I know all the agencies I know locally, they're not going to do like in-person trainings, but getting a set of freelancers locally is going to be a win for her. So there's definitely like that give and take.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there definitely got to be situations where you need someone more hands-on, and I miss it too. Like, I don't get to go on site with clients really hardly at all these days, when I used to go quite a bit prior to, but everything's been weird about visiting and things. I mean, there's still opportunities, just not as many as there used to be. So, but it is something you got to factor in. Are you comfortable as the client? Are you comfortable working remote? Are you comfortable using remote style tools, maybe Slack or something similar for real-time chat, maybe ClickUp or, Basecamp or something for, project management to track the status? Like, is that something you're going to be comfortable working with? Of course, the people that walk in the door at WebDevStudios, they generally know we're remote at this point. We've been remote for so long, like it's not really a question we get asked that much, but my assumption is most people know, and I do ask that most people know we are remote when they walk in, and they're okay with that because, again, it's digital, it's technology, we can really do it from anywhere. But again, it's not for everybody, so that's a big question you should ask. If you want to look local, then that really narrows down your search.
Yeah, this goes back to setting that solid foundation in the beginning. Like, you need to get all of these important things. Anything it's not about features, it's not about the code, it's about where are these friction points in our relationship, And can I find those early? And can I tell you what I'm not going to do? Like we said before, I'm not going to touch WooCommerce. I'm not going to touch your, enterprise CRM or ERP system. I'm not going to come to your office, when we launch this site. And clearly defined, responsibilities early and often is my magic formula to any kind of service-based success. I don't care if you're the contractor or, you're Brad from WebDev building websites. Like, tell me what you do. I'll tell you what I need. And, I'm not going to surprise you, and I don't want you to surprise me either. And let's just have that conversation as soon as possible.
Let's talk about some red flags. We mentioned a few, and I think this is where some really, value in our experiences and what we've kind of seen and what we look out for even on our side, right? Because I'll be honest, when people walk in the door at WebDev, they're interviewing us as much as I'm interviewing them, right? Like,
Correct.
We're kind of making sure there's everyone's favorite word, synergy, right? But that there's someone that we would want to work with. And I'm sure we've all kind of hopped on calls. A big red flag for me is just, the initial impressions of the first meeting, right? You ever meet someone and it just doesn't sit right? Something doesn't feel right? Listen to that, right? On both sides, honestly, but certainly as a client, if you're talking to an agency or freelancer and, something's off, the answers aren't quite there. The examples are vague. There's just not listen to your gut and something's probably is off, right? It's especially online and remote. It's never been easier to fake what you're doing or fake a company or fake the size of your company. It's never been easier, right? So, look for that. Do research. If you're talking to someone, look them up on LinkedIn, run their name into Google or ChatGPT or Claude and just see what it comes back with. And see if there's information about them out there. If you search WebDevStudios, there is a lot of information about us out there for the last 18 years, talking WordPress and open source and presentations and plugins and books and everything, so there's a huge amount of information about our company out there that you can find before you ever even reach out to us. If you search someone and can't find much, that's a red flag.
Yeah. And, I know you talk to a lot of agency owners, as do I through my podcast and stuff, and everyone's looking how to get more clients, how to grow the business, how to find more work, and all this other stuff. And I mean, short of pay-per-click ads and advertising, like to have people find you and feel like they know, like, and trust you. For me, it's like doing what you're doing now with webinars and podcasts and YouTube channels and education. I'm of the mindset of if you're, as a red flag, like if your agency or freelancer, isn't going to want to train you or have a support thing that you can offer. Like, I don't care if it's like out of reach, like it's, oh God, I can't afford this. It's the mere fact that they have it. Like, there is something there, because I don't want to be in a situation as a customer going, I need your help. How do I get in contact with you? It's one thing if you said our support is $1,000 a month, ongoing, yada, 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 and I can opt out of that and kind of understand where I'm at. I don't want to be in a situation where there's something wrong with my site, and now I'm trying to dig up, like, how do I get in contact with you? Or, can't you just fix this for me? And you never told me that there was supposed to be a support plan that went alongside of this, right? So, again, like, I just think creating content and staying top of mind as much as possible is key. And I think agency owners and freelancers are going to have to bring the customer closer to them moving forward because of how much competition there is. I don't even care about the AI stuff. It's just how many agencies there are, how many people are willing to do work on your WordPress website. You're going to have to find an advantage that's beyond price and expertise, because somebody will match you or undercut you out there, and you're going to want to have something else. You're going to want to have some kind of support blanket for them that does something else in the business. I almost think like agencies and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, like freelancers and agencies might have to like kind of operate in almost like a membership kind of thing, where it's just like you're not just a customer, you're a member here. And because of that, like, we're giving you all this other value added stuff, other education about your industry, or we're connecting you to other people in your industry, just because like things are just so competitive. And if you want to provide value and sell on value, in my opinion, you're going to have to up that game a lot.
Yeah. And to the point of competition, AI is everywhere, right? AI is everywhere. It's in everything, but certainly building websites, coding, AI is right out there, right? And doing some pretty wild things. So again, another thing that you need to be conscious of when you're looking out there doing research is how are they building these websites, right? Because there are companies out there now that are 100% AI, 100%, and they may or may not tell you that. They may or may not tell you there's 2 or 3 people running Claude 24/7 and building out their websites, right? Still pumping out WordPress sites, but doing it 100% automated through something like Claude Code, right? So the idea is you need to dig in a little bit and find out, is that the type of company they are? If that's what you're looking for, great. But understand there's a lot of risk that comes with that, right? Coding with AI tools can be really, really powerful. It's an accelerator for sure, but you also have to have the technical understanding to know what you're doing, right? We've been experimenting with it like everyone else, figuring out what works for our clients and doesn't. And even in those experimentations, one prompt on a silly, project I was working on in the evenings dropped my entire database.
Yep.
And I didn't have, it was just a side project doing something for fun. Just wiped out my entire database on a prompt that was completely unrelated to doing anything like that, right? So, and we all hear these stories. Amazon was just down. They had 3 major outages in like a week or two because of AI, having like all hands on deck meetings because of it. So it can absolutely be an accelerator, but you have to be careful, right? If you're going with someone and all they're doing is using these AI tools blindly, chances are you're going to have a bad time. Chances are something that's been deployed on that website is not as locked down and secure as you think. Chances are you're going to have some issues. And if you're going for cheap and quick and dirty, great. That's an option. But you also have to understand what we're getting into it. Again, it goes back to that research in the company. We've been around for a long time. We understand WordPress. We have high standards for the code and projects we build, and our clients expect that. We work with brands that, you're very familiar with, big enterprise brands. So there's a certain level that comes with hiring us, knowing anything we're deploying doesn't just get spit out of AI. There's always a lead engineer line by line code review before we deploy anything, right? So that is, again, something you're going to be paying for. But if your project is so important that if there's downtime, it gets hacked, something gets, compromised, how critical is that going to be to your business or your project? And those are questions you need to ask. So that could be a red flag depending on what your actual goals are for the project.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still like in the middle. I feel like I'm firmly in the middle of AI's impact on all of this stuff, because while it's really powerful, yes, I totally agree. For coding and a lot of other stuff, it's getting really good at these things that I hate to say like are binary, because it is a very dynamic thing that a lot of these things can solve. But God, I mean, we're also living in a hype bubble cycle on Twitter and these other social media things, because you see all these people, saying they're launching all this stuff, they're doing all this stuff. There's people like, oh, if you're not using 18 agents to code a thing, like you're doing it wrong. And it's like, how are you getting anything? If you have more than 2 agents working on a code base, how the hell do you know it's going to do anything right? Like, how are you just blind? There's a lot of people who I think have just blindly trusted this thing.
Trust in it.
And they just don't know the fundamentals of software. And even further, and I'm saying this as a non-developer who has made a bunch of like complex pieces of software, in my opinion. And the more important thing is these folks haven't launched it as a real business yet. So, anyone that's like clone this $1 million app in 2 minutes. Okay, fine.
Those are my favorite.
Like you can clone it.
Those are my favorite. Right.
You haven't launched it. You haven't got the customers.
No, you gave it a piece of information to work off of, which is why it's able to move so quickly, right? So it's just like, look at this clip of this multi-billion-dollar movie I recreated in 10 cents. It's like, but you use the movie as a reference to it, like without that you wouldn't have got to where you're at, right? So So I mean,
very valid
points around AI.
Yeah, it's AI, but also and WordPress. I mean, we saw the same thing with the rise of well, I won't call out the name, but a marketplace that has plugins and themes, 10, 15 years ago, when a marketplace of a bunch of themes and plugins came out, and we saw people could buy a real estate website for $50, a business directory for $75, and they could just buy that from that marketplace and throw it onto WordPress. We saw a rush of freelancers, air quotes, freelancers and agency owners come into the space because they're like, oh, look, I can buy this theme for $50 and then sell it for $5,000. And then a year from then, at that point, that client came knocking on WebDev's door. It was like, this guy left. He gave us this. What happened? And I think we're going to see that with AI.
There is absolutely a service that all of us are going to be working on, which is cleaning up problem projects. We've already reviewed Opus generated plugins that have come to us, and we've been hired to review them and provide feedback, and there were a lot of security issues that we put back there. And so, again, had they launched with that, could have been a problem. But, these are all great red flags, and, there's a lot of things. I think the last one I'll touch on is around, because this is a big one, but is it around like the revision process, right? The idea of adjustments. Hey, you're going to build something for me. There's going to be some back and forth. What does that process look like? What does QA look like? Quality assurance. How are you testing it? And what's the expectation for me to test it? Because, again, if somebody builds your website and says, here you go, let us know what you think, that's not really setting you up for success either, right? Like, you don't even know what they built. So if nothing else, they should have a process. Hey, we're going to walk you through your website. Around QA time, we're going to show it off to you. We're going to do training so you understand exactly what we built and how your team's going to use it. Are they teaching you how to use your website? Because if they're not, they're getting ready to start charging you to help you use your website, right? So we include training in everything we do. If you hire us to build something, we're going to train you on how to use what you paid us to build. We're going to give you clear documentation. That also outlines what we built and how it works. We record it. It's awesome training material. You get a new hire, an intern, whatever. Hey, watch this. You're going to know how to work with our website, right? So that should just be included. Everybody should be doing that. But these are good questions to ask, because if they don't have a process, if they don't include training, they're not really thinking about the success. They're thinking about getting this done and handing it to you and saying, here you go. We always want to set up our clients for success. I want you to know how to create pages and use blocks and work with the patterns we put together. I want you to do that, because it's going to blow your mind, and you're going to want to keep working with us and keep building on this site towards more success. So, I think those are good things to dig into, because if you start to see holes in their process and things aren't making sense and they can't articulate how they're going to test it, let alone how you're going to test it as maybe the non-technical client, big red flag.
Yeah, and this goes back to what we were saying before, is like, if you can put out that education and that sort of like leadership around how you work in the business, and you're not afraid of it, then your customers are going to see that. Like, instead of them coming to you saying, oh, show me your portfolio so I know that you can do this. How about I actually show you how I've educated people on how to do this? Like, this is even better, because I can make anything and show you that I made this, but here's how I launched it. Here's how I train them. Here's how we support them. And I think at that point, people will just be like, okay, I'm sold, because now I'm seeing what happens after the website is launched, which is even more important than the actual website itself.
Yeah. We got an audience question from Scott. Good to hear from you, Scott. It has been a while. We can put that back on the screen. So, curious about your guys' thoughts on how you go about approaching clients on retainers during the consultation stage, ahead of time, in the middle, post-launch. So I believe what you're asking, Scott, is, a client hires you to do a project, right? And ultimately, your goal as the freelancer or the agency is to say, okay, we launched the project, but we want to be around to support the project, update it, help add new features. An ongoing support retainer is what many people would call it, right? So it's a great question on the timing. Typically, what we'll do is, if we're building out a project, we're going to launch it, we will usually tee that up, in early conversations of post-launch support. Beyond just, we always include post-launch, for 30 days or whatever, depending on the size of the project. But beyond that, right? So it's support beyond that. We tee it up kind of early on in discussions, and then we kind of circle back to that as we get a little bit closer to QA and start talking about, hey, launch is coming up. Good time to have a side conversation about expectations on how we can help support this post-launch. Every client's a little bit different, right? But generally, our goal is partnerships. Our goal has always been partnerships. We want to build that site, but we want to continue to run with that client and make them as successful as they can be, because if they have success and they're successful all day long, so will we be. They won't go anywhere else if we can continue to help move the needle on their business and whatever their online goals are. So so that's really how we pitch it and push it. If it's or I should say, pitch it to them, not push it, but we lay it out as we're your partners. We want to continue to help grow this. Technology is a living, breathing thing, right? It should never be a one-off. This is actually a good question as you're digging into looking for that agency or freelancer is, what does long-term support look like for you? Can you help us? Or is this, you just want to hand this off and you don't do that? Matt, to your point about that monthly cost, is that something they're factoring in? Most of our clients stay. They want us to stay engaged, but every once in a while we'll get one and they're very upfront. This is a one-off. We want you to launch it and we're going to take it, but we just need help getting it built and launched. And okay, that's okay too, right? So really needs to be part of this discussion from the start throughout.
Yeah. And I come from a background in sales, right? And when I started my business for the agency, I started with the experience first, like the presentation, the sales pitch, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's just like, God, I remember when I started my agency, we were doing like these printed, binded proposals. Oh. Like we were, it was like this nice plastic cover, yeah. And it was this real thick paper, and we would hand it to the customer. Plus, we had our office, we had our own office, so we would bring people in. We had nice couches, a TV. This is like very many moons ago, but it was a whole experience because I came from the car industry. When you're selling a car and delivering the car, you're making sure like the customer feels like, I just spent a bunch of money. I want to feel good when I'm picking up this car I spent a bunch of money on. But that's not my point to this of the lesson here is I don't know of any other business, service-based business, where I say it as like there's no rules. You can pitch and sell something to a customer any way you want. A contractor who comes to my house, if I'm saying, hey, I want you to redo my kitchen, and I say, I just can't afford that number right now, and he goes away, he can't just come to my house next week and be like, hey, I'm just going to start chipping away at the tile, and I'll put a nice tile backsplash on you. Us service-based businesses on the web, we can do a free consultation. We can turn that free consultation into maybe a little mini course that you can offer. For a little bit of money, you take this course, you get educated. Then there could be some, to Scott's question about doing retainers, maybe if you can't afford the whole project, you just put us on retainer and we build it out slower, right, for a little bit of money. No other bit, like I can't do that with a contractor to build my kitchen. He's not going to like piecemeal my kitchen together over the course of 6 to 9 months, So we're in a very flexible spot as business owners, and I think people should lean into the retainer-based, the smaller, package-based service, because it eventually leads to that bigger project in the long run. And again, it's so hyper-competitive now. Why wouldn't you want to secure the customer with something that they found valuable, which can then grow into something greater later on?
I love it. So let's wrap this up. I know we're coming up on time here, and I want to end on a little fun segment. I always like to have a little fun segment here at the end with my guest. So today we're going to do the WordPress hot seat rapid fire round. WordPress hot seat round, all right? I'm going to fire off some questions over to Matt, somewhat related to what we talked about today. And I want quick off-the-cuff answers, Matt. You got to go quick here, right? This is rapid fire for a reason.
Got it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I don't have these questions. I don't know what he's coming. He does
not have these questions. He doesn't know what I'm about to ask him. So, they're not that crazy. But yeah, let's dig in. All right, the WordPress hot seat lightning round. The nightmare file. What's worse, a logo sent as a Word doc or a logo sent as a low-res screenshot?
Word doc.
I agree. All right, the quick fix. True or false? There is no such thing as a 5-minute WordPress fix.
Correct. True.
True. Okay. Plugin hoarder. What's the maximum number of plugins a site can have before you start sweating?
Oh man. The number doesn't scare me. The number doesn't scare me, but probably anything over 100.
Well, yeah, I think that's going to make anybody sweat. All right, the ghost of web dev past. This is kind of more of an open-ended, but think of an older, 2015, maybe 2010 kind of design trend that needs to stay buried forever. Like worst design trend you hope never comes back to the web.
Oh man. Oh, geez. I would go with like the Web 2.0 buttons. Like you know what I'm talking about. There was
oh yeah, like XHTML, whatever. Like
yeah, it was like they all had the same like gradient kind of thing. Like that style.
Gradients were fun. All right, the final boss. Who's scarier, the stakeholder who never emails, or the one who sends 10 emails in an hour?
The stakeholder who never emails.
All right, the password vault. What's the most creative, unsafe place a client has ever stored their admin password?
On a sticky note on their monitor.
That's a classic place to put it.
Yeah.
I had someone email me a PDF of all their passwords the other day. As I responded, you need to go change those immediately, please.
Yeah.
All right, launch day jitters. On a scale of 1 to move to a desert island, how stressful is a Friday afternoon launch?
Oh, you just never do it. You just never do it. You just never do it on Fridays.
Never do it on Fridays. I agree. Unless no, you just never do it. All right. The last one, and this might be my favorite, the scoper's choice. So would you rather fight one Godzilla-sized scope creep or 100 duck-sized just one more thing requests?
Oh, the first one, the first big scope.
You want a Godzilla-sized scope creep?
Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah.
But it's big.
Yeah, just one.
But it's big.
Yeah, it's just big. The little ones just drive you nuts.
That is the just one more thing. You're right. That does add up to probably something bigger than Godzilla. But
yeah.
All right, good job, Matt. I think you did good on the rapid fire. Those weren't too difficult, were they? That was.
I was expecting a Tom Brady in there somewhere, but
I had one with a baseball bat I was going to ask you about, but it's an inside joke from our pregame, so no one's going to get that but me and you. But all right, real quick, I know we're at time. Why don't you give everybody shout outs where they can find you online? Let's plug the course again where they get that. Again, it's free. Get over to wpminute.com, sign up for that, you can get that for free. But what else? You got a lot going on over there, Matt.
Yeah, lots going on. First and foremost, thanks for hanging out today. Really appreciate the opportunity to kick off the course with you, my long-term friend in the tech space, in WordPress, and in life. The wpminute.com/courses. You can get this course for free. We have our other hosting course. It's a great 1-2 combo. We're on a path of trying to make the whole experience of WordPress better for people. And we think that this kind of education will help lay the groundwork for a solid way to choose hosting and a solid way to find people to build your website, which should mean you're getting a better WordPress experience. The wpminute.com/courses, and of course my day job at gravityforms.com.
Yeah, love everything you're doing over there at WP Minute, the podcast, the blog, the books. I mean, everything. Get good over there if you haven't. The newsletter. It's just a really good way to stay connected to the WordPress community, things that are going on. And we love Gravity. We love Gravity Forms, and their T-shirts are the softest in the industry. So,
they are.
With that, we will wrap it up. I'll end it. This is going to be on YouTube and across all socials, but the primary place will be on YouTube. Please subscribe. Hit that smash that subscribe button. I got to get better at saying that. Smash that subscribe button. We want to see. We're going to keep publishing awesome stuff. We got a big WordPress AI video coming out real soon. Super excited about. So, thanks again, Matt. Thanks for having on, and we will have another webinar very soon. Thanks for tuning in.